The one case that haunts me the most happened at the very beginning of my career, when I was about 20 years old. It was around Christmas time. I worked in a town that was known for its snow. Well, this particular year, we had the biggest snowstorm that the area had ever seen. And it was pretty scary. The wind was blowing. The snow was coming down. People were getting stranded everywhere. Power lines were coming down. There was just havoc everywhere. Well, I got a call to respond to a disturbance at a hotel. And when I say disturbance, I mean like somebody screaming and yelling. We didn't know what was going on. So my partner and I responded. When we got there, we could see that every single car in the parking lot had been buried in snow, and there was nobody outside. So we kind of looked around, made sure everything was okay, and then we went inside. We go inside and there's no lights on. There's no music playing. There's nothing. And then all of a sudden we hear a bang from upstairs. And so we start heading up the stairs, because the elevator wasn't working. And as we're heading up the stairs, we can hear more banging. My partner and I, being the big heroes that we are, decided that we were going to find out what was going on. So we get up to the second floor, and that's when we start hearing the banging get louder and louder and louder. And then we finally locate the room where it's coming from. We knock on the door. Nobody answers. And then my partner kicks the door open and goes in. And what we saw was one of the scariest things that I have ever seen in my life. The whole room was trashed. The walls were covered in blood. There was blood everywhere. And standing in the middle of the room was a guy that was covered in blood. He had blood all over his clothes. Blood was dripping down his face. He had a wild look in his eyes. And he had like a meat cleaver or an axe in his hand. Obviously, my first thought is, oh my God, what did I do in a past life to deserve this? But then quickly after that, my other thought was, oh my God, if he looks at me, he's gonna kill me. So I kind of started backing out of the room. And then the guy drops the meat cleaver and he starts lunging at my partner. And then my partner draws his gun and shoots him. After the guy was shot, he looked at my partner and he just stared at him for a while. And then he collapsed. So we ended up finding out that the guy had been staying in that room by himself. And the night before, he had called 911 and said that there was somebody breaking into his room. And he was scared. We had sent an officer out to check on him, but the officer didn't hear anything and he didn't see anybody. So we just told the guy to call if somebody actually broke in. So then the next day comes around. Obviously, the guy ends up killing himself. And during the investigation, they found out that the guy had schizophrenia and he hadn't taken his medication. After that incident, I was never the same. I would have nightmares about that guy standing in front of me with a meat cleaver. I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't eat. I was just a wreck. My partner was even worse off. He ended up going on medical leave for several months. He ended up having to go to therapy. It really messed him up. One of the things that really bothered me was that I heard some people saying that my partner shouldn't have shot him and that he should have, been tried for murder. But the thing is, he saved my life. Like, if that guy would have gotten a hold of me, he would have killed me. I would have bled out on that hotel room floor. And nobody would have ever found my body. So yes, my partner shot him, but he also saved my life. It was probably one of the scariest things that I've ever experienced in my life. And it still haunts me to this day. Now, normally when something like this happens, there's some sort of debriefing process that takes place. Somebody from the department comes and talks to you about it, and they answer any questions you might have. But in this particular case, that didn't happen. We were just left alone to deal with it on our own. I think that was probably one of the worst parts of it. Not having any help or any support. I feel like if we had gotten some sort of counseling or some sort of help after that, we would have both been able to move on and maybe it wouldn't have been such a big deal. But because we didn't get any help, it lingered on, and it followed us around for a long time. And it got to the point where I was so stressed out about going to work that I started calling in sick a lot. And then management ended up writing me up for excessive sick time. And then I ended up quitting. I loved being a police officer, but I was so traumatized by this event that I just couldn't continue working there. It's one of those things where I wish I could have continued working there. I loved that job. I loved being a police officer, but I just couldn't deal with the aftermath of what happened. It's almost like they swept it under the rug and they pretended like it never happened. But it did happen. And the fact that it was covered up just added to the trauma. If I could go back and do anything differently, I would have probably just stayed in that room until backup got there. I know that sounds really stupid, but I was so scared that if that guy got out of that room, he was going to find me and he was going to kill me. So I think my survival instincts took over and I just ran away. In hindsight, that was probably the dumbest thing that I could have done. I should have stayed in that room and waited for backup. To this day, I don't know what would have happened if my partner hadn't shot him. I don't know if that guy would have stopped lunging at him. I don't know if he would have, tried to attack me again. I don't know, but I do know that my partner saved my life. I'm just thankful that I was able to make it out of that situation alive. And I am also thankful that I have a platform like this to be able to share my story and maybe help other people who are going through similar situations. I hope that I was able to shed some light on what it's like to be a police officer and the crazy things that we see on a daily basis. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stay tuned.